Arsenal, 1913, Woolwich Arsenal's fall from grace. Arsenal have spent over a century in the top flight, but once even this historic club wasn't immune to the drop. In the 1912-13 season, then known as Woolwich Arsenal and based in South London, the Gunners endured a miserable campaign. They finished bottom of the First Division, managing just 18 points from 38 games. It was a low point for a club that would one day become synonymous with dominance and stability. But that relegation proved to be a turning point. The club dropped Woolwich from its name, moved north to Highbury, and began laying the foundation for future greatness. Within 2 seasons, Arsenal returned to the top flight, and they've never looked back. Since then, they've built an unmatched record of consistency, becoming one of English football's most enduring powers. That lone relegation in 1913 remains a distant footnote in the story of a club built to last. Liverpool, 1954, end of an era at Anfield. Even England's biggest clubs have stumbled, and Liverpool is no exception. Their lowest point came in the 1953-54 season, ending a proud run of 50 straight years in the top flight. Club icon Billy Liddell was so influential the team was nicknamed Liddellpool, but even he missed a crucial penalty in a 1-0 loss to Cardiff that sealed their fate. Liverpool's defense leaked 97 goals, while the attack struggled badly, finishing with just 28 points under Don Welsh. A winter stretch of 1 win in 20 games crushed any survival hopes. What followed were 8 long years in the second division wilderness, with trips to places like Doncaster and Leyton Orient replacing visits to Old Trafford and Highbury. But out of the gloom came a savior, Bill Shankly. Arriving in 1959, he rebuilt the club from the ground up. By 1962, Liverpool were back, and this time they were on the path to greatness. Manchester United, 1974, the Red Devils' darkest hour. Manchester United may be England's most iconic club, but even they weren't immune to relegation. In 1973-74, just 6 years after lifting the European Cup, United's empire crumbled. Under Tommy Docherty, they lost 20 league matches and slid to 21st in the table. The season was pure drama. George Best made a brief chaotic return before walking away, and goalkeeper Alex Stepney briefly led the team in scoring thanks to penalties. On the final day, needing a miracle to survive, United faced bitter rivals, Manchester City. Instead came heartbreak. Club legend Dennis Law, now playing for City, back-heeled the goal that sealed United's fate. Fans flooded the pitch in despair, and though other results meant relegation was inevitable, Law's goal became symbolic. After 36 years in the top flight, United were down. Yet they kept faith in Docherty, bounced back as second division champions in 1975, and quickly rejoined football's elite. Tottenham Hotspur, 1977, from bottom to rebirth. Tottenham Hotspur, giants of the 1960s, hit a devastating low in 1976-77, finishing bottom of the First Division. It was their first relegation in 40 years and a massive blow to a club once known for flair and silverware. The cup-winning core had faded, and under new manager Keith Birkinshaw, the team struggled badly. To make matters worse, beloved keeper Pat Jennings was sold to bitter rivals Arsenal that summer, a gut punch to already reeling fans. Yet from this rock bottom came rapid resurgence. Spurs stuck with Birkinshaw, and he led them back to the top flight the very next season. Promotion came by the thinnest margin. A nervy 0-0 draw on the final day secured it on goal difference. Back in Division 1, Spurs announced their revival in style by signing Argentine World Cup stars Ossie Ardiles and Ricky Villa in 1978, sparking a new era. The pain of relegation was short-lived. Chelsea, 1975 and 1979, Blues in the Blues. Modern fans know Chelsea as a global powerhouse, but before the Abramovich era, the Blues faced tough times, especially in the 1970s. After early decade glory with FA Cup and Cup winners' triumphs, financial trouble from building Stamford Bridge's East Stand drained the club. Star players like Peter Osgood and Alan Hudson were sold to cover debts, weakening the squad. In 1974-75, Chelsea slipped into the relegation zone and never recovered. Not even club legends Ron "Chopper" Harris or Peter Bonetti could save them. A late switch to Eddie McCready as manager came too late, and Chelsea dropped out of the First Division after 12 years. Though they bounced back in 1977, they were relegated again just 2 seasons later in 1979, finishing rock bottom with only 5 wins and a miserable 27 goals scored. Chelsea wouldn't fully stabilize until the mid-1980s. Their multiple relegations remind us even giants can fall before they rise. Manchester City, the roller coaster club. Manchester City's history reads like a football roller coaster. With 11 drops from the top flight, no other English giant has been relegated more times. Yet today, City are European champions. Their journey is filled with surreal twists. In 1937, they were crowned English champions, then got relegated in 1938, the only title holders ever to fall the next year, despite scoring more goals than anyone else. Fast forward to the Premier League era, the 1995-96 season delivered a tragicomic finale. Under Alan Ball, City needed a win to stay up. Tied 2-2 with Liverpool, Ball mistakenly believed a draw was enough and told players to waste time. It wasn't. By the time they realized the truth, it was too late. City went down, and it got worse. In 1998, they were relegated to the third tier. But City fans are nothing if not resilient. They rose again, and today stand proudly among Europe's elite. Everton, 1951. Goodison's great escape that failed. Everton may be one of England's most storied clubs, with 9 league titles to their name, but even giants can stumble. In 1950-51, the Toffees endured a season to forget. After barely surviving the previous year, Everton started poorly, losing 12 of their first 18 games. A winter unbeaten run offered hope, but it quickly faded. A 9-game winless streak late in the season left them on the brink. On the final day, Everton needed just a draw to survive. Instead, they suffered a crushing 6-0 defeat at Sheffield Wednesday. In a cruel twist, Wednesday were relegated too, tied on points but stuck in the drop zone. Everton's second-ever relegation was sealed in brutal fashion, sending shockwaves through Goodison Park. Thankfully, the stay in Division 2 was short and promotion came in 1953-54, coinciding with rivals Liverpool going down. Since then, Everton have remained in the top flight, but the scars of 51s still linger. Aston Villa, 1987 and 2016, from Kings of Europe to protest and pain. Aston Villa, founding members of the Football League and former Kings of Europe, have twice suffered dramatic relegations. The first came in 1986-87, just 5 years after lifting the European Cup. Managerial chaos and an aging squad saw Villa slump to the bottom of Division 1. Though painful, they bounced back within a couple of seasons and even challenged for the title in 1990. Fast forward to 2015-16, and the Premier League era delivered another brutal blow. Villa, ever present in the league since its inception, managed just 17 points and 3 wins all season. Fans protested with banners, beach balls, and biting chants, directing their fury at mismanagement both on and off the pitch. Relegation was confirmed with weeks to spare, ending a 28-year stay in the top flight. But Villa didn't stay down for long. After rebuilding in the Championship, they earned promotion in 2019, determined to restore pride at Villa Park. Leeds United, 2004, doing a Leeds and the fall from glory. Leeds United's 2003-4 relegation is etched in Premier League history as one of its greatest collapses, so much so that doing a Leeds became shorthand for financial ruin and dramatic decline. Just 3 years before, Leeds had reached the Champions League semi-final, but their high-spending strategy backfired. Saddled with over £80 million in debt, the club entered a chaotic fire sale phase, offloading stars like Rio Ferdinand, Harry Kewell, and Robbie Keane. The team's spine was dismantled, and results plummeted. By the 2003-4 season, manager David O'Leary was long gone, and a patched-up squad struggled on the pitch. Relegation was confirmed in May after a heartbreaking 3-3 draw with Charlton. Leeds had been 3-1 up before collapsing. The emotional scenes at Elland Road told the story, a proud giant brought to its knees. The fallout was even more painful. Promising talents like Alan Smith, James Milner, and Paul Robinson were sold, and the club spiraled into League One. It would take 16 long years to return to the top flight. Leeds' fall was a cautionary tale, but also became part of their legend, a dark chapter that made their Premier League comeback in 2020 all the more poetic. Newcastle United, 2009, tuned turmoil on Tyneside. Newcastle United, with their massive fan base and storied history, found out the hard way that no club is too big to be relegated. In 2008-9, the Magpies' season spiraled from hopeful to disastrous. Beloved manager Kevin Keegan quit early after a fallout with ownership sparking fan protests. A revolving door of managers followed. Joe Kinnear, caretaker Chris Hughton, and finally club legend Alan Shearer for the run-in. Despite a squad packed with stars like Michael Owen, Obafemi Martins, and Mark Viduka, Newcastle lacked cohesion and confidence. On the final day, needing a result at Aston Villa, a deflected own goal from Damien Duff sealed a 1-0 defeat and confirmed relegation. Shearer stood stunned on the touchline, while supporters wept in the stands. A 16-year Premier League stay had ended in heartbreak. The aftermath saw Mike Ashley heavily criticized, a bloated wage bill trimmed, and the club forced into a reset. Yet Newcastle showed resilience, winning promotion under Houghton in 2010 and again in 2017 after a second relegation. Still, that first drop in 2009 felt like a tragic playset on Tyneside. Mismanagement, a fallen hero, and tears in the terraces, but it only deepened the Toon Army's legendary loyalty. Nottingham Forest, in 1993, Clough's last stand. Nottingham Forest's 1992-93 relegation was more than just a fall from the top flight. It marked the end of an unforgettable era. Under Brian Clough, Forest had once conquered Europe, winning back-to-back European Cups in 1979 and 1980. But by the Premier League's debut season, the magic was fading. Key players like Des Walker and Teddy Sheringham were sold, while a young Roy Keane tried valiantly to hold things together. Despite his brilliance, Forest sank fast, managing just 3 wins before Christmas. Relegation was confirmed before the final match, making Clough's last home game at the City Ground an emotional farewell. Fans stood and sang for their legendary manager, even in heartbreak. In his final game away at Ipswich, Clough's son Nigel scored Forest's lone goal, the last of the Clough era. Forest bounced back briefly in 1994 but spent 23 years outside the top tier. That 1993 relegation wasn't just about football, it was the curtain call for one of the game's greatest characters. As Clough might have said, Forest weren't great that year, but for what they gave the game, they were still in the top 1. Blackburn Rovers, 1999. From champions to the championship. Blackburn Rovers lived every club's dream in 1994-95, winning the Premier League behind Alan Shearer's goals and Kenny Dalglish's leadership. Bankrolled by steel tycoon Jack Walker, it was a fairy tale come true. But just 4 years later, they crashed out of the top flight. After Dalglish stepped back and Shearer was sold to Newcastle in 1996, the club's decline was slow but steady. By 1998-99, Rovers were fighting relegation, a shocking position for recent champions. In their penultimate match, they lost at home to already relegated Nottingham Forest. Then came a tense 0-0 draw with title-chasing Manchester United, a result that confirmed the drop. Fans at Ewood Park wept as the reality set in. Manager Brian Kidd, once Sir Alex Ferguson's assistant, couldn't hold back emotion either. Rovers spent 2 years in the second tier before returning in 2001, though Jack Walker sadly passed in 2000 and never saw their comeback. Blackburn's story is a cautionary tale. From champions to the championship in just 4 seasons, they remain the first Premier League winners to be relegated, a sobering footnote to an otherwise incredible chapter in English football history. Sunderland, 1958, the unthinkable first relegation. For decades, Sunderland AFC prided itself on top-flight permanence. Nicknamed the Bank of England Club in the 1950s for their big spending, the Wearside Giants had never been relegated since joining the league in 1890. That changed in 1957-58 in a drama that shook English football. The seeds of Sunderland's fall were sown by financial scandal. An illegal payments affair in 57 saw the club fined and officials suspended. On the pitch, despite finishing 4th in 1955 and boasting stars like Len Shackleton and Don Revie, Sunderland's form collapsed. They managed just 10 wins in the 42-game season, and though they tied on points with 2 other strugglers, a poorer goal average condemned them to 21st place, second bottom, in the first division. The unthinkable had happened. After 68 years in the top tier, Sunderland were relegated for the first time. Fans were shell-shocked at Roker Park. This was a club with 6 league titles in its history, now tasting second-tier football. Shackleton, a club legend, had retired that season due to injury, and one can only imagine how a 35-year-old clown prince might have helped in the fight. Sunderland spent 6 seasons in Division 2 before reclaiming a place among the elite in 1964. In the years since, the Black Cats have yo-yoed often, but that first relegation remains singularly significant. It ended an era of invincibility and proved that even the most established clubs are only ever a few bad results away from disaster, a hard-learned lesson on Wearside. West Ham United, 2003, the best team ever relegated. West Ham's 2002-03 season remains one of the Premier League's greatest puzzles. With a squad packed full of talent, including Joe Cole, Michael Carrick, Jermaine Defoe, Glenn Johnson, Trevor Sinclair, and Paolo Di Canio, even Liverpool's manager tipped them for a top 4 push. Instead, they were relegated with 42 points, the highest ever total for a demoted side. The Hammers started poorly, winning none of their first 6 games and failing to win at home until late January. Rookie manager Glenn Roeder struggled to unite the gifted group, and by mid-season, confidence and chemistry had evaporated. After Roeder fell ill, club legend Trevor Brooking briefly steadied the ship, and West Ham mounted a late charge. But a 2-2 draw at Birmingham on the final day wasn't enough, and other results sealed their fate. The fallout was brutal. The squad broke apart, and West Ham were left wondering how it all went wrong. Still, fans packed Upton Park throughout, and in 2005, the Hammers earned their way back. That 2003 team is now remembered as arguably the best squad ever relegated, a cruel twist in English football's rich history.